Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a sci-fi thriller film, The Titan. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins in the year 2048. The planet has been rendered uninhabitable as a result of nuclear war. The ensuing sandstorms and flash floods have displaced thousands of people. The American government is scrambling to evacuate citizens to a safer place. A military fighter pilot named Rick is selected to be a subject in a top-secret military project that seeks to find other inhabitable planets in the solar system. The government is hoping that they can evacuate people there instead and escape the wrath of Earth's nature. Rick and his wife, Abigail, a medical researcher, are taken to their lush accommodations inside a military base. With them is their young son. The colonel who is escorting them warns the family that they are not allowed to contact anyone from the outside world. But the doctor who's giving them a tour tells them that they're free to contact whomever they want. The family is thrilled that they get to live in such a luxurious house. They quickly unpack their belongings and settle in. The professor spearheading the project visits them the next morning. He's excited to have Rick as his subject, but he does warn him that there's a considerable risk since they will be attempting something unprecedented. The professor also chats with Abigail. He minces no words when he says that after the research trials, Rick will become very sick and may even die. Abigail is confident that Rick is strong, especially since he has endured harsh conditions when he was a soldier. But even if he gets sick, she's still resolved to take care of him. In a team briefing, the professor highlights the urgency and importance of the project that they are undertaking. The Earth's resources are quickly running out, and in a few years, the population will starve to death. The professor continues, saying that their only hope now is to look toward Titan, the planet Saturn's moon. It's the only place in the solar system that has similar atmospheric conditions as Earth. But sadly, the air and environment on Titan are too toxic for human bodies. The aim of the professor's project is to use the latest genetic technology to enhance human bodies, so people can live on Titan. One of the subjects raises his objections to the professor's unorthodox methods, but Rick pipes up and tells him that they should all just cooperate since they are working towards saving mankind. Research subjects like Rick will undergo a course of drugs and intense physical training to see if the project is feasible for mass implementation. The subjects are all military personnel, carefully chosen by the professor for their skills and abilities to survive harsh conditions. Rick gets the first few shots of the drugs that will hopefully change his breathing capacity. He doesn't feel the negative health effects yet, so he and his wife throw a party at their house. They invite the other research subjects for a barbecue. They all have fun and try to make the most out of their time before the worst of the effects will kick in. Later that night, Rick starts getting chills. Abigail wraps him in a blanket and takes care of him all night. The professor is elated that the initial blood tests are showing promising results. To further test their enhanced abilities, the professor subjected them to a breathing exercise. Both Rick and Tally, another subject, are sent underwater to see how long they can last without air. At the 30-minute mark, Tally taps out, leaving Rick as the winner. Suddenly, he discovers that he now has the ability to swim with superhuman speed and strength. The professor and the rest of the team cheered him on. Rick is injected with more drugs that leave him weak and wheelchair-bound. Despite this, he musters a smile and spends the day playing video games with his son. One night, Abigail wakes up and notices that the house is very cold. Rick is not beside her in bed. She finds him near the pool, cooling himself with an ice pack. The most recent effect of the new drugs is that his body is now used to very cold temperatures like in Titan. He dips his hands in a bucket of ice and remarks that he doesn't even feel cold anymore. Soon enough, all the subjects also gain the enhanced abilities that Rick displayed. They test their limits by running fast and swimming in sub-zero temperatures. However, Rick notices that some of his hair is falling out. Tally experiences the same thing. Suddenly, one of the subjects collapses and convulses on the floor. Blood streams out of her nose, and the doctor tries to save her, but it's too late. The rest of the subjects become spooked by the death of their comrade. They are afraid that they will start dying one by one. They all gathered in Rick's home once again, but this time, the mood is somber. In the kitchen, Tally's husband tells Abigail about how they met and fell in love. They want to start a family, but since overpopulation is a serious problem, they need a permit before they can have a child. Tally isn't that keen on being a mother though. While having dinner, Abigail notices that some of the subjects have dark veins all over their body. But her thoughts are interrupted when all of a sudden, one male subject gets enraged and attacks his wife. Rick and the others manage to restrain him. It seems that he's in a blind rage and doesn't really know what he's doing. The doctor does a checkup on Rick the next morning. She pronounces that Rick's spleen is having some difficulty processing the drugs. She explains that the subject who had died yesterday was predisposed to kidney stones, which caused the complication that killed her. Abigail is now suspicious of the drugs they're giving to the subjects, and she questions the dosage in medicine that the doctor is about to inject into Rick. Rick vomits blood because of the drugs. Abigail takes a sample of it with the intent of conducting her own analysis. However, while walking around her house, she notices that there are cameras set up all around the premises to monitor them. While swimming in the pool, Rick begins shedding some of his skin. This is yet another side effect of the drugs. The next day, Abigail takes a look at the blood sample under a microscope. She watches as all the blood vessels turn dark black. Meanwhile, Rick undergoes eye surgery to adjust his vision to Titan's low light. While recovering, he has to wear bandages on his eyes. But something goes wrong. Rick wakes up in the middle of the night with immense pain. His eyes start bleeding. Abigail takes him to the hospital, but she's barred from being with him in the operating room. She then confronts the professor about the things they are hiding from the subjects. The professor denies her allegations and urges her to just be with her son. That night, the male subject goes berserk again and throws his wife through the glass window of their house. The military responds by shooting him instantly. Abigail worriedly watches over an unconscious Rick in the hospital. She decides that she needs answers, so she steals Rick's access card and sneaks into the professor's office. Inside, she finds the confidential files on the research subjects. It turns out the drugs the professor has been injecting the subjects with are actually animal DNA, so he can create a new and improved species of humans fit for living on Titan. Meanwhile, the professor, the doctor, and the colonel have a meeting with a NASA representative. The representative is not happy with the professor's unethical conduct in implementing the research project. He thinks that the professor's theory of forced evolution is unsafe and lacks proper scientific research. But the professor arrogantly shuts down the representative. He is hellbent on finishing his research, despite the subjects dying. The next morning, Rick regains consciousness. He goes home, and the professor talks to both him and his wife. He explains that the subjects' brains are struggling to adapt to their body's new abilities. The male subject's brain overloaded, causing him to kill his wife. The professor suggests another surgery to correct this, but Abigail is adamant that the professor never touch her husband again, now that she knows what he has been doing. The professor admits that he has been injecting the subjects with animal DNA, and he doesn't really know what's going to be the end result of the evolution. But if Rick doesn't get the surgery, he will be dead within 2 days. He decides to go through with the final surgery. The remaining subjects also undergo it. However, 3 of them die while on the table. Their bodies could not take the extreme alteration anymore. Only Rick and Tally survive, but their bodies evolved, and now do not look like humans at all. Abigail and her son arrive at the hospital to see Rick for the first time after the surgery. They cannot enter the glass enclosure separating him and Tally. When the lights illuminate the room, Abigail and her son gasp in shock. Rick is no longer the man they once knew. Aside from the changes in their appearance, Rick and Tally also lost their tongues. Their new species now communicate via tactile touch and a low-frequency sound that human ears cannot detect. Rick presses a webbed hand on the glass pane, wanting to touch his wife. But Abigail is still processing the changes in her husband and could not really look at him. The professor plans on shipping Rick and Tally to Titan soon to see how they will fare. Until then, Rick will stay at home with his family. Abigail tries to help him dress, but Rick miscalculates his strength and accidentally hits her. She recoils away from him in fear. Tally kills her husband and then later goes to Rick's home. The military quickly surrounds their house to neutralize Tally. They shoot at her and she goes down. But this is just a trap, and she kills one soldier with an alien-like limb. The other soldiers shoot at her again, this time finally killing her. Rick is overtaken by the urge to defend himself, and he kills all the soldiers. He easily does this using his enhanced abilities. Abigail watches all this and screams at Rick to remember who he is. He then runs away. More military squads are deployed to apprehend Rick. The professor is keen on keeping him alive, since he's the only successful research subject. Abigail realizes that Rick has gone to a spot in the nearby forest that they went to before. She finds him there. He hesitantly steps closer to her. She allows him to touch her, and the two share a smelly kiss without using their tongues. Abigail finally sees that he's still the Rick she loved and married, despite the changes in his appearance. Moments later, a military helicopter spots them. Abigail wakes up in the hospital. The professor asks for her help in encouraging Rick to embrace his mission of going to Titan and becoming humanity's hope for the future. Additionally, the Earth's environment and atmosphere are no longer suitable for Rick's new body. Rick has been resisting the military's efforts to capture him and send him to space. The professor urges Abigail to help him perform a chemical lobotomy on Rick. This will effectively erase all his memories and emotional connections that are preventing him from fulfilling his mission. The colonel hands her an injection filled with the chemical, but Abigail fumbles it and drops the vial of medicine. The colonel bends and picks it up before returning it to Abigail. She slowly approaches the cage where Rick is being kept. She injects him and he loses consciousness. Afterward, Abigail quickly flees the room with the doctor. The professor then realizes that Abigail didn't inject Rick with the chemical. She deliberately dropped the vial, and when the colonel wasn't looking, she stole a vial of saline. She switched the two vials and injected Rick with saline instead, which won't affect his body whatsoever. This means that Rick is just pretending to be unconscious. True enough, Rick's eyes fly open, and he starts killing the military men in the room. The doctor helps Abigail get her son, who was kept in one of the rooms on the base. They all then meet up with Rick in the laboratory, but he has been seriously injured from his encounter with the military. The professor arrives and orders the soldiers to fire upon Abigail and her son, but they all mutiny and instead point their guns at the professor, signifying that he no longer has the power and support to lead the research. The NASA representative takes over the project, with Abigail and the doctor joining the team to make sure the project is ethically conducted. Rick fulfills his mission and thrives in Titan as a superhuman, a symbol of humanity's hopeful future. The movie ends with Abigail and her son looking up at the sky, thinking of the husband and father they've lost to the stars. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.